Okay, my name is Abigail Stephen, and we are learning about the moon and the phases of the moon today. Okay, so guys, we are getting ready to start a new science section. It's called Space Science. And I'm not going to hand out the books yet because we're going to talk about the moon phases. But I will tell you that in the first section of our book, we learn a lot about the moon phases. So we are just going to know a little bit more about it when we go to work in the book. Okay? So today we're going to read some stuff about the moon, and we are going to take notes to glue in our science binder, science notebook. Okay? So I want you to get out your science notebook, and we are going to go through these. You should have papers in there.
Did we get all of them out?
And it starts with, what are the 8 moon phases? Taylor, can you get your papers out, please? Okay, so we're going to start with the 8 moon phases, okay? So Katie, can you begin reading at number 1?
The moon is directly
Read the words. What does it say?
New moon. The moon is directly between the sun and the earth. The side of the moon facing the earth is not illuminated, so it...
Good. So the new moon. The moon is directly between the sun and the earth. Okay? The side of the moon facing the earth is not lit up. It's not illuminated, so it can't be seen. So the moon rises at sunrise and sets at sunset. Okay, the second one, waxing crescent. Taylor, can you read that one for me?
Waxing crescent. Waxing means that the moon is increasing the amount of light it is showing. The moon appears in the shape of a crescent and usually best seen in the west.
Okay, so here, this is the new moon. Can't see it. Totally covered up, not illuminated. The waxing crescent, right here. Okay, so you can see you can see this much of the moon, and the rest of it's covered up. Now we have the first quarter. So first quarter, sometimes called a half moon. So we're right here. We have a half moon, okay? Because half of the moon is visible in the night sky. The moon has completed a quarter, or 25% of its lunar cycle. The moon rises at noon and sets at midnight. Okay, then we have the waxing gibbous. A majority of the moon is lit, with the shape increasing in size each night. The moon can be seen for a majority of the night. Okay, so right here. Then we have,
Can I do full moon?
yep,
Okay.
we have full moon. Taylor, read that one.
Full moon. The entire face of the
Okay, so this is a full moon. This means we can see the whole thing, the whole moon. Okay, now we have a waning gibbous.
Can I read that?
Taylor, or Katie, yes, you can read that.
Waning gibbous. The moon starts...
It's starting to lose light instead of gain light. Okay,
Can I do last quarter?
yep, Taylor, if you want to do the last quarter right here.
last quarter.
Okay, so that is right here. So, to the naked eye, so just, if you're just looking at the moon, not through a telescope, nothing, just from here looking at the moon, each phase appears to last about 3 days. So scientists can pinpoint when the exact full moon is. So if we started here,
That's
3 days,
6 days.
6,
7,
9, 12,
So the 13th will be a full moon.
no, 12 plus 3 is 15.
15.
So after 15 days, we have a full moon.
And then 3 days go by, and then it's a
Yeah, so every 15 days we have a full moon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, looking at it closely, after that time, the moon will gradually get smaller as it enters into the waning gibbous phase. So what is the difference between the waxing and the waning phases of the moon? Taylor.
The waxing and the
So waxing means that it's increasing in the amount of light.
waning gibbous is
That means
losing
it's,
light.
yes, it's decreasing in size, it's losing light. Good. Okay, so what is a lunar cycle?
Kitty,
Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it? Okay,
So Kitty, you go first.
The moon is always on Earth.
okay, so what is a lunar cycle?
A lunar cycle is the phases of the moon.
So it's the period of time it takes the moon to change from new moon to new moon. Okay? What are moon phases? So the moon phases are the different ways the moon looks from Earth over the course of a lunar cycle. As the moon orbits the Earth, the side facing the Earth is lit up from the sun. So the side facing the Earth is lit up from the sun. Depending on where the moon is in its orbit will determine the shape that is lit and what can be seen from Earth. In addition to the different shapes that can be seen throughout the lunar cycle, the moon also has times when it rises and sets, similar to the sun. The moon rises and sets. The moon rise and set time correspond with the phase that it is in. You may have noticed that the moon is sometimes visible in the daytime. Do you guys ever notice that?
Yeah, me and my brother have one.
Okay, so down here there's a chart. We have phase, moonrise, moonset. So the new moon is at it'll come about at sunrise and it'll set at sunset. First quarter comes at noon, sets at midnight. Full moon comes at sunset, leaves at sunrise. Last quarter comes at midnight and leaves at noon. Okay, let's go to the next page. It should say moon on it, like this,
Like what?
like this.
Like what?
Can I read it first?
Yep.
Fine. You ready, Kitty?
Yeah.
The moon. Scientists believe
So how did the moon form?
Kitty, you go.
The moon formed by part of the Earth and some other planets heating and cooling.
Okay, so what asteroid or
Rocks.
yeah
So it formed 4.5 billion years ago
yeah,
when a rock
collided
collided
into
with
the Earth, and then a piece of the Earth came off, and then the rocks melted and cooled on that piece, and then it created the moon.
Is that
Good.
how the dinosaur died?
What does the moon look like? The moon is Earth's only satellite. A satellite is something that orbits a planet. The moon is about the quarter of the size of Earth with a diameter of 2,149 miles. From the night sky, the moon looks like a white circle depending on its phase. Taking a closer look at the moon with a telescope, you can see craters. These craters have not eroded over time because the moon does not have an atmosphere or weather conditions. Without atmosphere or weather conditions, everything has remained untouched. Dark areas of the moon are known as seas, but they aren't really seas. They are huge areas of dark lava. So what does the moon look like?
It looks like a white circle.
It looks like white cheese.
White cheese?
Like a white cheese ball.
Yeah, like white cheese ball.
So it's a sphere that orbits Earth, and its surface contains craters and dark spots of lava.
So definitely my description of the moon.
Okay, the
What is
moon
it
is
like?
different from Earth. The moon does not have an atmosphere, weather, or oceans. Scientists do not believe it is habitable for human beings to live on the moon.
But why did they name Jupiter? We can live on Jupiter then.
Yeah, why did it?
Well, we'll learn about that later. Since the moon does not have an atmosphere, there are tremendous temperature swings from day to night with a daytime average of 253 degrees Fahrenheit and a nighttime temperature of minus 387 degrees Fahrenheit at night.
Does it just go high drop, just like
Yeah.
2 seconds?
These vast changes would make it very difficult for human beings to live. Other factors that would make it difficult are lighter gravity and a lack of oxygen. The moon has approximately 1/6 the gravity that is on Earth. That makes everything on the moon appear to be lighter. This would make walking on the moon very difficult. Human beings need oxygen to breathe. Without it, we would die. So the lack of oxygen on the moon means that we would need to wear a special helmet or other device that would allow our lungs to constantly breathe in oxygen.
So we can use a scuba tank?
Not
I mean, it gives us air if you're thinking about it right.
So how is the moon different from Earth?
Well, one has gravity and one you can just breathe normally.
Well, on the moon it has less gravity. The moon does have gravity, but it doesn't have a lot to where like if you're like running, like it like pushes you up, and then
You can't fall down and break your knee open.
you can breathe normally on Earth, and then on the moon you have to have special oxygen so you can breathe.
Does your blood float to your head?
Yes.
So the moon lacks atmosphere, weather, and oceans, so where there are great temperature variations. Also, gravity is 1/6 lighter and there is no oxygen, just as Taylor said. Okay, what does the moon do? The moon is a natural satellite that orbits Earth. As the moon orbits, it is also rotating. Because of this, the same side of the moon is always facing us. The orbiting moon does have an effect on Earth. Tides are caused by gravitational forces between the moon and sun. Despite the sun being much bigger than the moon, because of its distance, the moon has a greater impact on tides. As the moon faces Earth, it pulls on that side, creating a high tide. The high tide can also be felt on the opposite side of Earth. The levels of the tides depend on the phase of the moon. Without the moon, we would also lack light at night, and the rotation of the Earth would be much more wobbly. So what does the moon affect on Earth?
One, we can walk straight and not falling unless you're really clumsy like me.
The moon helps you like pull the Earth into a position where it will like just stay there instead of like doing this while it rotates.
So the moon affects tide levels.
They're like a water thing.
So the ocean, you know, the tide when it comes up on the beach.
Yeah, and you could drown.
And it affects Earth's rotation and gives us light at night. Okay, so we should have all of those answered on our papers.
Do I have to write it?
Yeah, you have to write it.
But we talked about it, so you know we did it.
And now we're gonna fill out a study guide all together. So you should have a study guide that looks like this,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, bro.
Okay, so how did the moon form?
By rocks.
So we're going to write
By the Earth and rocks.
Colliding.
scientists
Scientists, yes.
believe the moon formed. So what is the lunar cycle?
The lunar cycle is the moon changing phases.
Okay, so the lunar cycle is the 8 phases of the moon. It takes 29.5 days.
I cannot see anything.
Okay, so there you go. What does the moon look like?
Looks like a cheese, it's white cheddar cheese ball.
Okay, so the moon is
Rocks.
2,149 miles. Okay, what is it like on the moon?
Low gravity.
Thanks, Kate.
No problem.
The
You're
moon,
such a good friend.
what does the moon do?
It rotates and protects the Earth from getting hit.
Low tide.
Okay, so
How did I get over there?
the moon, girls, controls, we're going to talk about the different phases. So what is the first phase?
Because I can't see.
What's the first phase?
New moon.
New moon.
Right?
Okay, what's the second one?
We're not even running.
We have the waxing crescent. Do you guys have all of this written down? You can take the rest of class time to color in your notes and make it look pretty, and then we're going to glue it into our science notebook. Okay?